talking to you as always. And here on NewsX World, we will of course bring you all the updates in regards to the ongoing Gaza crisis. We now move on once again and over to the United States, where President Donald Trump says that his tariffs are bringing in trillions into the US economy without driving inflation. In a post on Truth Social, he criticized Goldman Sachs CEO David Solomon for negative outlooks, suggesting he should focus on being a DJ. Latest data shows US consumer prices rose moderately in July, but service costs and some tariff-linked goods saw the biggest underlying inflation jump in 6 months. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt defended the tariffs, saying they were strengthening the economy while safeguarding American jobs.
Look, right now it stands with these two companies. Perhaps it could expand in the future to other companies. I think it's a creative idea and solution. The legality of it, the mechanics of it is still being ironed out by the Department of Commerce, and I would defer you to them for any further details on how it will actually be implemented. But again, this was another idea of the president and his brain trust on his trade team to try to, get good deals for the American people and the American taxpayer.
Earlier, Trump also announced that a 100% tariff on imported semiconductors with exemptions for companies building production in the United States. This decision sparked stock gains for chip makers with US ties. It also follows unique deals with NVIDIA and AMD, where they will pay 15% of their China-sourced chip revenues to the US government in exchange for export licenses. Moreover, markets expect a FED rate cut in September. Economists warn that tariff-related costs could still push inflation higher as previously imported inventory runs out. We're now joined by Dr. Ajay Jua. He's a former Secretary of Commerce and senior economist. He joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Dr. Jua. First of all, I want to get into Donald Trump's statements. Despite pushback from economists all around the world, Donald Trump maintains praise for his tariff policy. Are tariffs truly bringing in trillions into the US economy, or is that an overstatement? As we've said previously, there has been widespread criticism of this policy when they were first announced in April to this very day. What are your thoughts, Dr. Jua?
Thank you very much. The trade of the United States last year, that for the aggregate for the entire year 2004, was about $4 trillion in the import. Let me put it, the import trade, of which $3 trillion was goods and services, goods, and about $1 trillion services. Now, out of the same level of imports or a slight increase, with more than 50% of the items imported into the US, even now exempted from additional tariff, it leaves about $1.5 trillion of goods coming into the US. And the average tariff which has been imposed so far is about, even if you take it as 15%, 15% into $1.5 trillion comes to an aggregate figure of $225 billion a year, which is about $20 billion a month. So I'm not sure whether President Trump was talking about trillions of dollars of trade or trillions of dollars of tariff income, because by no stretch of imagination, even at 50% tariff rate, which is imposed on a couple of countries, or 3 countries in fact now, it would only double up from 225 to 450. But the trillions are actually, I think there's a slight mix-up between the volume of imports and the additional revenue.
Yes, indeed, Dr. Jua. If July saw the biggest underlying inflation jump in 6 months for certain goods, can tariffs still be defended as non-inflationary as they have done by the US president?
If those could be called that way, if there was an augmentation because of the tariff, there was an augmentation of supplies. The supply of goods, non-tariff goods, that means the goods which are the exempt category, or more of those are produced within the US because those are produced there and consumed there. So the inflation can have a positive effect on inflation. But it's to start producing goods in the US, or for that matter anywhere in the world, takes time. You have to settle for producing only those things in which you have an advantage or the ability to produce, what economists refer to as comparative advantage. So I don't think it can ever be said with confidence that inflation will come down if I levy tariff. The tariff is paid by, let's say, not by the exporter. The exporters, it is paid by the importer at the US customs. It is coming from US buyers, and where does the importer collect it? From the customers of those goods. So it is the US customer, US based customer, who is paying for these tariffs. So if he is paying an additional 15% on an average, to that extent, unless backed by higher production, which, as I said, is rather difficult in the short run, the inflation is bound to set in.
Yes, Dr. Jua.
Difference between the Fed governor, the Fed chairman, Mr. Powell, and the US is even on these basic things. When he refused to, even in the last meeting of the Monetary Committee, which sets the interest rates, the Fed chairman was very clear, saying that inflation has now gone up to 2.5 to 2.6%, and with tariffs, and he didn't use the word tariff, but he said trade uncertainty, the potential for it to rise is high. That is why we are not going in for softening of the interest rates. That means pumping in more money into the economy.
Yes, Dr. Jua, do stay with us as we have more US tariff news.